How's it going? I'm Ryan. Today I'm going to go over the one trade that I took on SPY. Happened to be a smaller winner. I took some calls when we held the previous day high. Um, Been a couple tricky days in a row. You can tell, I think, just by the price action of this daily candle that we've had some weird movement. But with that being said, we'll get into the trade in just a second. We are on the daily time frame here. You can see that we had a pretty big surge in volume today. Didn't quite get up to the all-time high, but we are pushing higher on the daily, and we kind of broke out of this descending channel that we had. We can take a look at a few of the things I was watching here on SPY. So coming into the day, we had a really big pump in the pre-market, kind of opening up around this like 508 area. We had the pre-market high around 508.32. I had this zone up here around 508.5-ish, we'll call it. And that was just from these two local tops from the past 2 weeks. And then we had this zone around 507, kind of corresponding with yesterday's high a day, yesterday's low a day. And then we had this zone from 505.4 to 505.6 or so, and then all the way up here at all-time highs. Coming into the day, one thing that I wanted to see was a pullback into this zone. Reason being, you can really see that we had support last week. Once we broke through, retested, it was acting as resistance all through this week. So a pullback into this area and continuation was kind of my original plan for today, and that is the trade that I took. So off the open, we broke above that pre-market high, kind of hung around up here for a bit before a big push in volume and a drop down into that 507 area. On the 5-minute, once we came down and tested yesterday's high a day and held it and held this 507, I entered calls here. I scaled one out on the way up and left a runner. The runner was stopped out by one of these candles here. When we started to fall back, I set my stop loss slightly in profit, and I got stopped out. We can take a look at the 1-minute chart here, and we'll look at why I felt good about this trade. So one of the reasons I felt good about it is that that was kind of my original plan, is that we had this big area of support that we had stayed below for the past week, that we were failing to break above, that we had now broken above. In addition, it was also the high of the previous day. So, when we are above the high of the previous day, I like to see a retest and hold for continuation for that bullish momentum. And when we got this huge spike in volume, we came down and we held it. So this candle right here, we tested and held. After this, candle closed. That was a close on the 5-minute and the 1-minute where we tested and held this level. So I got in on this candle, and we see this massive surge in volume. So things were looking pretty good from this point. I took one contract off up in here around 507.4. Reason being, it was the last area that we kind of hovered around in here before this drop. So as we approach this area, you see those wicks forming on the upper, those upper wicks forming on those candles. So I took one contract off here that was around 20% or so. When we pushed up here, also I should say that my stop loss was a break below low a day. So I had a pretty tight risk. We didn't even have any real drawdown on this trade, which is an excellent scenario to be in. But yeah, stop loss was if we broke below that low day and continued downwards. Obviously, we had this huge drop into this area, so I didn't want to risk too much and watch that continue. But yes, one contract trimmed here. The next contract, I was up around like 30 to 40% up in here, and I didn't take it. Hindsight 2020, obviously, I wish I did. I was targeting 508. Reason being, that was kind of the price that we had opened at. And why is my, there we go. So I was targeting kind of this opening price in this area that we had tested before this big drop. So kind of that 508, 508.1 area was ultimately my target for my runner. That would have been the previous low of day, and that was what I was targeting. We didn't get up there. And as we push down, I set my stop at this 507.5. Also, reason being because this is kind of the area that I took my first contract off, and once we broke below, that stopped me out for a very small profit. So this slow grind up and this kind of horizontal action really started to eat up the premium on my contract. I was trading a 508 call for same day expiration, and some of this horizontal action in here made me go from up 30 to 40% at this point to, you know, maybe up 10% or so when I got stopped out. So I set my stop at about 10% profit, and when we push back here, this stopped me out. Now I am glad I did, because ultimately we fell back down into the zone. Each time we touched it, kind of getting a small pop out of that area, showing that there was demand and there was buyers in this area. But nonetheless, left a lot of money on the table by not cutting up here. And I think this is something that I'm dealing with, trading with a really small position size. I'm trading with 1 or 2 contracts. You know, ideally, say I had 10 contracts or something, I could have taken my first trim here. Up here, we're up 30 to 40%. Could have taken a trim there, you know, left some runners for ultimately my target of 508 or say this pre-market high. And just allow myself to kind of scale out gradually and capture some of those profits. But with only 2 contracts, it is kind of difficult to, I guess, scale out effectively because you only have 1 or 2 contracts. So that's something that I'm dealing with, and it's something that I've noticed if we don't hit my target, I end up leaving a lot of profit on the table. So something I'll kind of try to reconcile with and try to deal with. But nonetheless, it was a winning trade, and I can't be mad at that. That was the only trade I took on the day. As you can see, there were some pretty nice trades later on. After I got off, there were some big moves. But I wanted to show this as I feel today was really odd to me. And what I mean is that the volume profile was just all over the place. So we're looking at this 5-minute chart. I'll zoom in to make it even more dramatic. But you can see volume's really, really low. Then we have a huge spike in volume, followed by extremely low volume, followed by a huge spike in volume, followed by extremely low volume. So you'd get these big moves, and then you would get, you know, half an hour of just sideways price action. And that's kind of how it was. It was just, you know, not a lot going on, big move. Not a lot going on, big move. Not a lot going on. And it was just, to me, kind of difficult, right? Obviously, in the first half of the day, in a downtrend, overall, we ended up with no trend, essentially closing right where we opened, and swinging a few dollars in each direction. So not the easiest thing for me to trade, and I am happy that I did get this bounce. Like I said, not lost, but left some profit on the table there that I would have liked to have that back. And obviously, like I said, hindsight 2020, I was targeting this area up in here where we had found a bottom earlier, but we didn't make it up there until much later in the day. So that's all I got. We can take a look at how price reacted. These zones are working pretty well still. You see us bounce here, fall down to this next zone, bounce, and that was the low a day, and kind of move zone to zone. Take a look at QQQ. There were some really nice moves on QQQ, and one in particular that I want to highlight that I did not trade, which was the break and retest of the pre-market high. So I was watching SPY today. I kind of like the setup a little bit better, but this is one trade right here that I really wish I was paying attention to, especially with this hold in the morning where we have, you know, a solid like half an hour or so of multiple retests and holds of that pre-market high. Then we get a big break on volume, come up, retest, get multiple 5-minute candles failing to close above that level, and then that continued drop. So that was the one trade that happened today that I wish I was paying attention to, because I think that was a really clean setup, and one that I just missed. So another thing I'll try to keep in mind is to maybe set more appropriate alerts, or really pay attention to when we do break a level like that, watch for a retest, etc. So that one kind of eluded me today. That would have been a really nice winner. Like I said, that there's probably no drawdown on that, right? You could have entered anywhere up in here and had essentially zero drawdown and a nice winner. So just something for the future to take note of. Once again, these zones, you can kind of see, I think QQQ is a little more sloppy today with my zones being kind of all over the place, but I mean, this zone was pretty much the high here. This zone held low a day right around here, around 435. So pretty decent price action. One thing that I was watching today that I didn't trade was this trend line. I got off a little after 9, but we did come up and retest that and get a really big drop out of there. So had I stuck around, maybe that was something that I could have partaken in. But nonetheless, like I said, it's a winning day. Can't be mad with a win, but always looking to improve. That's all I got. I appreciate you watching. Thank you very much. I do trade live Monday through Friday, so I'll be here tomorrow trying to close out the week strong. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Peace.